Good afternoon to you. Now we will continue with the Constitution. As you know, we have taken parliamentary committees. We have completed general issues regarding parliamentary committee. We have seen the kinds of parliamentary committees, and in specific, finance committee we have seen. We have completed the public accounts committee. Now we are taking up estimate committee. Very important estimate committee. Many times the question has come in prelim. As you know, the estimate committee originated from Standing Finance Committee of 1921. So, PT point of view, origin Standing Financial Committee of 1921. First estimate committee was constituted in post-independent India in 1950 on the recommendations of John Mathai, the then finance minister. So, two PT questions. When it was constituted after independence, 1950, whose recommendations? John Mathai, the then finance minister. So, two PT questions. Originally, it had only 25 members. In 1956, the total members were raised to 30, all from Lok Sabha, elected by a system of proportional representation by single transferable vote. So, you remember, originally it had only 25 members. In 1956, the total members were raised to 30, all from Lok Sabha, elected by a system of proportional representation by single transferable vote. Chairman is nominated from its members. Vice Speaker is always from the ruling party. Most important fact. So remember, it is an elected committee only from Lok Sabha, chairman from ruling party, and the main function is to examine the estimates and suggest economy in public expenditure. So this committee is also called Continuous Economic Committee. Continuous Economic Committee. So remember, very important, when it was constituted in 1950, initially 25 members. In 1956, total members raised to 30. How they are elected? By an election, proportional representation by single transferable vote, and all from Lok Sabha. Underline, all from Lok Sabha. What is the Lok Sabha committee? Economic committee. Sorry, estimate committee. So this is because it is concentrating on the estimates and suggesting economy in public expenditure. This committee is also called Continuous Economic Committee. So Continuous Economic Committee, Estimate Committee. Remember, most important. Secondly, the committee has four specific functions. The committee has four specific functions. What are those? Number one, to suggest the format in which the estimates are to be presented to Parliament. In which form the estimates are to be presented to Parliament will be suggested by the estimate committee. Number two, to examine whether money laid out within the policy implied in the estimate, whether the allocation of money is within the policy suggested in the estimates. Number three, to suggest what economy, efficiency, improvement and administrative reforms are required in policy implementation. So what are they will concentrate? What economy, what efficiency, what improvement and what administrative reforms. 4 points. And alternate policy to bring economy and efficiency. Alternate policy to bring economy and efficiency. So estimate committee has these four specific functions. Now, at the beginning of each term, the committee selects the subject concentrating on the ministry or ministries for examination. It is not incumbent on the committee to examine the entire estimates of any 1 year. The committee chooses 6 to 8 ministries. What is the guiding principle? The guiding principle for selection is that one round of examination of important estimates of all ministries should be completed in the lifetime of Lok Sabha. What is the lifetime of Lok Sabha? 5 years. So 5 years you should cover all the ministries. This is the guiding principle. And ad hoc subjects can also be taken. Nothing prevents the committee from taking ad hoc subjects. The committee shall not exercise the functions relating to public sector units. Public sector units are outside the jurisdiction of estimate committee. Why? There is a separate committee on public undertakings which we will see now, and the estimate committee cannot undertake any scrutiny relating to the functions of public sector units. This you should understand. Now, it is open to the committee to call the details of expenditure charged on the Consolidated Fund of India and also to scrutinize whether the classification between voted expenditure and charged expenditure done as per the constitution. So, most important function, that is, there are two types of expenditure. One is charged expenditure and the other is voted expenditure. What is this charged expenditure and voted expenditure? I think I have already explained when we discussed parliamentary procedure and financial powers, etc. In this I have clearly said, still for your refreshing your memory, I am just telling now, under separation of powers, there is an executive to execute the law, legislature to make the law, judiciary to interpret the law. Now, if you strictly see in the parliamentary democracy, the legislature and the executive are combined. There is a amalgamation of executive and legislature. So, if let us say that there is a political party which has 3/4 majority, with 3/4 majority, so they can amend the constitution, they can delete the constitution, anything can be done. So, in such circumstances, there may be occasions which tempt the executive to control the independent agencies. Who are all the independent agencies? President, Vice President, Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Deputy Chairman, and CAG, Judges of Supreme Court and High Court, and all these election commission, all these dignitaries, constitutional dignitaries, are independent of executive. Independent of executive. So, it is possible if the 3/4 majority political party comes to power, they can dominate these independent authorities by withdrawing their salary, by withholding their salary, by reducing their salary, by curtailing their salary. So, to ensure independence of these constitutional functionaries, the constitution has stipulated that their pay and allowances, salary, secretariat expenses are charged, inverted comma, quote, charged into the Consolidated Fund of India. That means the parliament can only discuss and they cannot vote the charged expenditure. That is called charged expenditure. Then what is voted expenditure? Anything other than charged is voted expenditure. So, if there is a variation in the charged expenditure, then the classification can be examined by the committee. They may not curtail, but they can call for the explanation and details of charged expenditure, how the classification has been done between the voted expenditure and charged expenditure can be done by them. Now, similarly, when the government wants to make any change in the format to be given in the budget papers on demands for grants, the matter is referred to the committee for their consideration. This is another point. Committee does not favor obtaining any technical assistance on the matters selected for consideration or examination. Why? The committee consists of 30 members from Lok Sabha and they are all versatile people. You cannot expect that they are ordinary people, so they need not require any technical assistance. So this is self-reliant. Chairman is very reputed, should be a very reputed person, and so there is no need for any technical assistance. And most important point, you can see the difference between Public Accounts Committee and the Estimate Committee. The minutes of dissent are not included in the report of the committee. Minutes of dissent are not included in the report of the committee. Which committee? Estimate Committee. Nevertheless, when a member strongly disagrees with certain points in the report and expresses a desire that his views should be incorporated, then the fact will be recorded in the minutes if agreed to by the committee. If committee agrees, then this can be included. This is most important. In Public Accounts Committee, if there is a dissent, it will be dumped. The report will not be submitted. Instead, it will be kept pending. Whereas, in the case of Estimate Committee, in extreme circumstances, it can be incorporated and submitted to the Parliament. The committee is constrained in the following areas. What are the areas it is constrained? Number one, it examines a budget estimates only after they have been voted by the Parliament and not before that. So, it is a post-mortem. Number two, it cannot question the policy laid down by the Parliament. After all, policy is laid by the Parliament, and the Estimate Committee is also Lok Sabha. So, it is not possible for the Estimate Committee to question the policy which has been laid down by a larger body, that is Parliament. Third, the recommendations are, after all, only advisory and not binding on the government, obviously. And it examines every year only certain selected ministries or departments. Therefore, it would take a number of years to cover all the ministries. How many ministries they will take? They cannot take more than 12, 10 to 12 only maximum. And in 1 year, and if it is 5 years, they can complete all. But who guarantees that it will be taken every year 10 to 12? No, it is not possible. Secondly, it lacks expert assistance of CAG, which is available to PAC. I have told you for PAC, CAG is the guide, friend and philosopher of PAC, whereas such an assistance is not there for Estimate Committee. The tasks assigned to the Estimate Committee are more like a post-mortem, which I have already told you. Now, we are coming to another committee, last of Finance Committee, that is called Committee on Public Undertakings. Committee on Public Undertakings, COPU, C-O-P-U. This is the final and third of the Finance Committees. Now, the committee was created on 1st May 1954. When it was created? 1st May 1964, not 54. I'm sorry. Now, 1st May 1964. When the committee was initially set up, it had only 15 members. It had only 15 members. 10 from Lok Sabha and 5 from Rajya Sabha. 10 from Lok Sabha and 5 from Rajya Sabha. And how the members from Lok Sabha are elected? By a system of proportional representation by single transferable vote. On the other hand, 5 members of what is known as 5 members from Rajya Sabha are elected in the same manner as and they are associated with the committee. In the same manner and they are associated with the committee. Remember, most important point which you should remember is this was created on the recommendation of Krishna Menon Committee. See, Estimate Committee, John Mathai, PAC, Chelmsford Reforms, and this is Committee on Public Undertaking, Krishna Menon Committee. Now, the strength of the committee was increased from 15 to 22. 15 to 22 from 1974-75. 64 set up, originally 15 members, 10 plus 5. Now it has increased to 15 plus 7 from, that is 15 to 22, that is 15 from Lok Sabha, 7 from Rajya Sabha. From when? From 74-75. The Lok Sabha members are elected by a system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. By means of single transferable vote. And remember, the members of Rajya Sabha are invited to associate with the committee on a motion adopted by Lok Sabha and agreed to by Rajya Sabha. Remember, here there is a small point, snag. What is the snag here? Here clearly it says the Rajya Sabha members need not be elected. Instead, Lok Sabha will move a motion asking Rajya Sabha to nominate 7 members to be associated with the Committee on Public Undertaking. So it is only association, not election. Kindly remember. And another thing is, minister cannot be a member. As in the case of Estimate Committee, as in the case of PAC, minister cannot be a member. The chairman of the committee is appointed by the speaker from among the members who are drawn from Lok Sabha only. Drawn from Lok Sabha only. In other words, Rajya Sabha members from the committee cannot be appointed as chairman. Cannot be appointed as chairman because there is a Lok Sabha committee. Now, what is the term of the member? Individual member is 1 year. 1 year. And what are the functions of the committee? To examine the reports and accounts of such public undertakings which are allotted to the committee. Number 1, to examine the reports of the CAG on public sector undertakings, public sector units or undertakings. Number 3, to examine whether the public sector units are managed on the basis of sound business principles. Number 4, to exercise such other function vested in PAC and Estimate Committee in relation to the public sector units which are allotted by the Speaker. Like what PAC is doing, what the Estimate Committee are doing with regard to the public sector units, the Committee on Public Undertaking should do. Okay, the committee cannot examine the following. Number 1, major government policy? No. Day-to-day administration? No. Matters for consideration of which machinery is established by any special law? No. The Committee on Public Undertaking is handicapped by the following. What are the handicap? Number 1, the committee cannot take up examination of more than 10 to 12, between 10 and 12 PSUs in a year. In 1 year, they can take up only 10 to 12 PSUs. Number 1. The work is in the nature of postmortem, as in the case of PAC. Number 3. The committee does not look into the technical matters because the members have no technical knowledge. Public sector units, so naturally such a knowledge is not there with the members. And recommendations are, as usual, are only advisory and not binding on the ministries. Now with this, we conclude the finance committees and we will take up the other committees in the next class, especially departmentally related parliamentary standing committees will be taken up in the next class. Thank you.